Tell me what the hell are you scared of when in the end the only
Where's
things
the
I
love? Right here on
does
this
never
podcast.
fade.
Welcome to Love
Welcome
Drops,
to
where your
never
host
the things
and
I
One Love
done
ambassadors,
never the
Charles
things
and
that I
Diane,
was
will
never the
share love, hope,
opportunity
and
to taste the
inspirational
sweetness of
topics
life.
taken
All
from
of the
their
reasons
journey
to
and
wish
world
I was
events.
a child
We
just
will
like
also include on location recordings and special pop up guests from cool
never
places
biggest small,
all
all
around the
around the
world.
world. Never
So sit
let
back,
go,
relax, and enjoy the show.
whether big or small, love never fails. Oh, love never, love it conquers all. Love never fails.
Welcome to another episode of the Love Drop Podcast. And I am excited for this episode. I believe we got some really great conversation ahead of us. One of the main themes in this conversation is just going to be about the importance of showing up for one another. Empowered women do empower women, and sometimes that is simple as showing up. That's all. Just show up. I see you. I hear you. I support you. So, with that said, I'm going to bring up our guest. Met her on LinkedIn, and we are already in the groove to doing some great works together. So, Christine, you have the mic.
Oh my goodness, Diane, what a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. Quick little bio about me. My name is Christine Passo, and I'm the owner of Christine Passo LLC. I live in Norfolk, Virginia, which I also like to call coastal Virginia. It sounds a little cool. And I've lived here for over 20 years now. Aside from that, I grew up in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And I am a life coach for mid-career women and household CEO women. So the women that are doing the work from home, not necessarily in an office. And another side of my business, I'm also a connection keynote speaker. I have learned how very important it is to communicate to connect instead of communicate at. And I offer workshops and presentations about how we can connect better and build stronger relationships in our communities, workplace, and at home. And, Diane, I'll tell you, it took me a few, actually more than a few decades to realize what my calling was.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with that, right? Because, like you said earlier, I showed up for myself. So I realized my calling was not in marketing and advertising, and it was in really having a purpose for other people and making an impact for other people. And in it, in entering this zone of being a life coach and changing my career, it has opened so many doors, one of which opened the door for you and I to meet and
Yeah.
allow us to talk and share this space today on your amazing podcast, Love Drop. So thank you so much for inviting me into your life and into your podcast.
Well, thank you, Christine, for your yes. I appreciate that. That means so much as well. And you know what? Kudos to you for having the courage to take the leap into what feeds your purpose and desire. And as a woman of a mature age, it's interesting because you get to the crossword as a woman of a mature age. We come to crossroads where we have to make some tough decisions. And it is passion over, say, money, over security, over comfort, right? But with that passion comes a peace. And also with that passion comes a fire to really just fuel you into that next stage of life, right? So it's not necessarily easy, but it's totally worth it. And I can say that just from our first meeting, that your passion is definitely being manifested, or your passion is being lived out in what you are now doing. Because you can just tell from the conversation that what you're doing, you do it for free, but you don't have to. But it's just something that really feeds your purpose and it's something that you really love,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, it's so true. So I spent 25 years in marketing and advertising. So I graduated from college in the mid 90s with a social work degree, right? Social work. But back then, you either worked for Department of Social Services or Child Services. It was a different time, and I couldn't do that. So I went into sales. I mean, it's a real thing to go into a different profession other than what you studied in college. But I chose that major because I knew in my 20s that I wanted to make an impact. I knew that's what I was born to do. I was already doing it in my personal life, but I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then, totally steer off course, get into sales and marketing, stay in that for 20 plus years. And really, the whole time, I had this like ache in my belly. I
Mm-hmm.
had this pain that I couldn't get rid of because I knew I wasn't on the right course. I knew my passion was not being fulfilled. I knew there were people out there that weren't hearing from me the way that they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And until I really listened to it and said, I have to turn my life upside down, because really that is what happens. That doesn't mean it's painful. It doesn't mean it's horrific. Just because you turn your life upside down,
Right.
it doesn't mean your world crumbles. It actually does the exact opposite. Your world opens up. It's the fear of different. It's the fear of stepping out of what we know that scares us so much. We put so much more energy into that fear than we
Mm-hmm.
would if we took a small step in a new direction. So I did that, and I started realizing that ache in my belly was disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
And when that light bulb went off, and said, you need to be a life coach and you need to get out there. You need to be speaking to your community. You need to be speaking to small organizations. You need to be speaking to anybody that feels that they're not connecting with people, or women that they need guidance. They want to know what their purpose is. And the minute that hit me, I mean, that's it. I mean, I was literally full speed ahead.
Yeah,
It just took off because passion speaks louder than I think anything else when we accept it.
that is, oh wow. That is so good. That was power pack. That was so full. And it just resonated with me from when I was a nurse. And I knew that I had reached the end of my calling. There's red flags and everything, especially when it became cost over compassion. It was turning into a business, into a profitable organization, just medical. And that is not why I went into it. The money was good, the positions were great, right? Comfortable, job security, and all of that. But it didn't feed my soul. So, in making the leap, at least for me, people were like, what's wrong with you? Are you nuts? How are you going to just walk away from it? Sometimes people don't understand. But when we realize that people can only understand from their level of perception, right? Then we don't waste our time trying to explain it. We just smile and say, well, thank you for your opinion. And we carry on. We don't
Right.
waste the time to try to convince or show them or or change their minds, because that's not necessary, right? And like you said, once you click into that purpose, even that little feel in the pit of your stomach, it just dissipates, right? It just dissipates. And when you were saying it didn't have to be hurtful, I agree. It is uncomfortable because you're shifting, you're changing, you're going from the known to the unknown, but you're living your purpose, right? And in your case, you've launched a business. So I want to talk about that because I can see going from work to passion and then into a business. So, what was your inspiration behind making this passion a business?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, it was like you just said, it was all heart and passion. It's, I'll be really as open and vulnerable to say that that's as much as I thought through it in the beginning. Because when I believed, and I currently believe, and I will never stop believing that this is what I am meant to do. I feel power in it. I feel the expertise in it. I know the benefits of helping other women. I mean, I know all of those. And when, like I said before, when that light bulb turns on and you know something, you realize it, there really is no turning back. There is this train is moving, it is in
Come on.
motion, and no matter what is in its way that tries to create a barrier or tries to create any kind of doubt, guess what? I run right through it because I
That's
don't
right.
feel that way anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was all heart and passion for me to start my business 5 years ago. Oh my goodness. If you said, Christine, you're going to own your own business in 5 years, I would have said, you are absolutely bonkers, drunk, crazy. Like something is wrong with you. I want stability, right? Like I want to know I get a paycheck every 2 weeks because I've done the job. And then my weekends I have off. I want the simple life. Guess what? There is nothing simple about that because there
Mm-hmm.
is no stability anymore when you work for another company. I mean, really, there's not as much stability with me owning my own business, but I can say what I want to do. I
Mm-hmm.
can produce workshops, I can produce programs, I can do whatever I want to make it happen and to be a success. So it has been heart and passion, listening to women. What do they want? What do they need? Starting conversations with my community members or new connections on LinkedIn that say, you're right, we're not connecting. And I listen to what it is that they feel is lacking so that in what I do, I can make sure that I'm feeding them. I'm feeding that need. I'm feeding their
Mm-hmm.
soul for what they're not getting. And really it's all wrapped up in one thing. It's not just what they're not getting at work. It's not just what they're not getting at home. It's everything.
Right.
And it's those days of of sectioning work personality and home personality, they're over. I think
Right.
people are done with it. So
Mm-hmm.
either you're going to present who you are or people are going to read through you.
That's right.
And so for me, I'm 52 years old. I am straight heart and passion in everything I do. That's why I show up and why I want to attract the others that show up and
Mhm.
believe.
Absolutely. And I love it. And Christine, I often say that showing up is my superpower. And I say it because it is a superpower to just show up and show up consistently, show up without an agenda, show up not trying to manipulate, show up not trying to fix anything. Show up and just be what you need to be in that situation. And it's going to look different on every different encounter. You may show up and just bring some diapers, right? You may show up with a cup of coffee, right? You may show up with a pizza, right? You may show up with a magazine. You may just show up with a bottle of wine, two glasses, and some comfortable clothes to just sit down and listen, just sit down and be. Sometimes we show up just to be present, right? We don't have to say anything. There's no words that need to be said in that space. Sometimes it's just a matter of, I don't want to be in this space alone. I don't really want to talk and I really don't want to listen. I just want to sit here with someone. And so that's why I say showing up is my superpower. And it takes life and experience to just learn how to do that and how to balance that, right? And when you do that from a true and authentic place, please believe that everything that you need for whatever you're trying to do, it will come. The resources will come to you, when you just do it authentically, when you just sow, not to reap, but knowing that you will. But that is not the reason behind why you're sowing, right? And then what
Yes.
you're saying about your passion, you're going to know by the fruit, right? So if you're doing some 5 years, then you're going to know, because there should be lives that's changed. There should be stories and testimonials and transformations. And if not, then I'm not saying that what you're doing is wrong, but something's out of alignment. Because if it's 5 years in and it's just like the same from the start, then, maybe a nice, good look and reevaluation is in,
Yes,
you know? And so
absolutely.
I say that to just go to the next part of our discussion. And we've discussed this off air, and that is, let's talk about some of the challenges that you've encountered. Let's talk about that particular obstacle.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll tell you, I've been hesitant to air this, really to put it out in a podcast or in a post or whatever it might be, so deliberately. But really, the only challenge that I have had, and a lot of this comes from how I feel, right? Because, like you said earlier, we act and share based on how we perceive and how we feel. But
Mm-hmm.
my biggest challenge has been that in going through my transformation, when anybody goes through a transformation and they come out the other side. Now, transformation is really a lifetime journey, but there are certain parts where we go, okay, I conquered that. Oh my gosh, I feel amazing. I
Right.
never thought I could feel this way. And we come through it. And then in my case, I start a business because I know exactly what I'm meant to do. I earn the certifications, and you hope that the people in your life
Mm-hmm.
are on this journey with you and supporting you because you support them, right? You have always
Right.
supported them.
Mm-hmm.
But you find out that some of those people are not on that train with you.
Mm-mm.
In
Mm-mm.
fact, if anything, there's some of those barriers that are on the train tracks that are trying to stop you.
Yeah.
And that I have never for 1 second not believed in myself. That is, I mean, if I could say one thing that is so important, that for anybody who does anything that they feel a strong conviction for, never ever stop believing in yourself. Never listen to anybody else. But I had a lot of people in my life. I have a lot of people in my life that don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a challenge for me because it's so important to share joy, sharing joy and that mutual respect and that, oh my gosh, I think you're amazing. I'm cheering you on. I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing it wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't always happen. So, that does happen in transformation. We
Mm-hmm.
do, some of those relationships don't make it or they become
Yeah.
less important. They become less important. But
Mm-hmm.
and I've heard people say this, and it really is true. If they're not important, if they are not believing in you now, who they believed in before wasn't you anyway,
Exactly.
right? So they
Yeah.
believe in who they think you are.
Right.
And it all stops there.
Mm-hmm.
So there
Mm-hmm.
was never a true relationship, a real authentic relationship that lived in that space before. So that's why now you're going to notice
Mm-hmm.
that your light is on. You have clear glasses on
Mm-hmm.
and you go, okay, all right, now it's different.
Now it's different.
um but it's been a challenge, but it's also been a triumph because
Yeah.
I've I hate to say I beat it because that sounds like physical and aggressive and fighting, and that's not how I like it. It's I've overcome it. I don't need
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I love that. I love overcome, that overcome
Yes.
component. And I feel you. I feel you in all of that you said. It's like I cannot even count the number of books, ugly sweaters, just trinkets that I'll never ever use, that you just re-gift and give forward. And other things that were quite amazing that I have just seeded into to support the dream of another person, especially when it comes to women, but just small businesses in particular. I just really will sound it out, spotlight it, just really go for it. I've been asked, hey, are you like their PR person? Hey, do you do PR? Can you? I know that's not what I do. And it's not what I feel is my calling. It's something that I do well because I want to see people win, right? I want to see people win. I have literally supported authors in buying like, hey, 10 to 12 books at one time, and then having the people that I gift them to, hey, take a picture with it and, this, that, and the next. And then when I did my books, it's just like there's no, and it's not a tit for tat. You don't even necessarily have to buy a book, but at least kind of spread it out. So even beyond that component of where it's a monetary exchange, okay, I'm cool because you never know a person's situation and what they're going through. But you know what? It is free to give shout outs. Shout outs are absolutely free and they are priceless, right? If you just shout it out, shout it out, shout it out, shout it out, right? Free, free, right? I think a frustration that I had to overcome because you cannot, and I'll repeat, you cannot stay in a place of frustration and fully thrive. It's going to weigh you, it's going to weigh on you. So you have to let it go. But a frustration that I overcame was you see these people and they will just share a baby sliding down a sled and flip over with a cup of coffee, a drunk man doing a drunk dance, and all this, and very funny. And I'm cool with that. Share it, but still, if you can't share something that is meaningful for someone else, like their dream, like your family member, your friend, a close relation, they wrote a book, they started a business, you can't spread that word out. And what I've learned is this: when you allow the flow, maybe the people that we feel should be doing it don't come on board because maybe they're dealing with whatever. And so they are just not ready to be authentically on board. And you do want truth. You don't want anybody faking it. So maybe those people are not yet available. But I promise you, if you just surrender to the flow and allow, you will meet people on places like LinkedIn and you'll be having a conversation like this right now, and you will build together. So if the goal is to build, if the goal is to make a change, if the goal is to impact and empower and inspire, if that is the goal, then don't get so caught up on who's doing and who's not doing, and just allow for the flow. And that's where I had to get, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you said something when we spoke the other day, and it has stuck with me, and I keep repeating it because I've already told, I think, 3 other people that you said, stop recruiting and start attracting. And so the recruiting part, I get that now. I felt, and I do know that I've been attracting really what I think is meaningful to me, and that what I can be meaningful to them. But the recruiting part, which was going in, really pairing up with the challenges, was coming into play. And I got to tell you this. So I started hosting a Women Empowering Women in-person meetup in my area. So I live in the Hampton Roads, Virginia area. And I host an in-person meeting for us to just get together, an opportunity for women to have conversations they might not be having with their circle of friends. Mm-hmm. And, to dive a little deeper into interesting thoughts and support other women and create new friendships and learn and grow and all that really good stuff that I really do believe that every person wants but they limit themselves. So I started this group 3 months ago. So the third meeting was last night. And I had a few people that they were going to come, but they ended up canceling. And so it ended up just being an intimate few of us. And my first thought right out of the gate, I thought, well, I'm so bummed. I was hoping these other women would get to meet each other. And I'm really trying to create this space. But I'll tell you what, the few that could come, I messaged them and I said, hey, are you available to meet a little bit earlier? So it was going to be a 6 o'clock meeting. And they said, sure. I was like, let's get together in daylight and walk. Let's take a walk and talk. And then we sat on a few benches and we talked. And what started as a little bit of disappointment turned into such gratitude because one, I showed up, right? So there, I could have had that defeated side of me that said, nope, it's only a few people are coming. I'm not going to waste their time, right? That would have been the old me. Where
Right.
instead it became an opportunity to really bond and have deeper conversations than we would have in a larger group. So we showed up for each other.
Yes.
And it's been extremely empowering. And that's really what it's about. And I didn't understand how important it was before my transformation. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you why I didn't understand because I wasn't even showing up for myself.
Wow.
So until we really know how to show up for ourselves and look ourselves in the mirror and say, I don't think I liked what you just said there. Next time, we're going to say it this way, right? Or,
Mm.
next time, instead of the shoulda, coulda, woulda, which I really try to stay away from,
Right.
it's knowing how to show up for yourself, which teaches us how to show up for others in truth, which makes all the difference.
Oh my goodness, girl. I got goosebumps. I love when I'm having conversations and I just get those goosebumps. I want to, two things. One, just circle back to knowing how to show up for yourself. Show up for yourself. That's one. And once you know how to show up for yourself, then you know how to show up for others because you know that in showing up for others, it's bigger than you.
Yes.
So it's like that walk and talk that you had. I understand. Trust me, I do because I do a lot of community building with women and bringing women together for different forums or workshops and have a sister circle that I've been doing for like this whole year. And it's a small group of women. 8 to 12 is where I like to land because
Mm-hmm.
then it gives each woman a time appointed, like engage. And so, like you were saying, bringing women from different circles into one circle, the power in that I have found is because a person will be more true and authentic with strangers than like people that are in their group because they feel like even though you say not, that it's going to be a point of judgment in there. Like, I don't want nobody judging me, or I don't want nobody knowing about my business or this. But if it's strangers, it's almost like you let the guard down, like, hey, I don't care if she knows, and maybe she can help me. And I think when we get to that point with our intimate people, we are making progress. When we can do that with our circle, and it doesn't have to be strangers, that we say, hey, I need help. Hey, I'm struggling. Hey, this is how you can help me, right? This is my ask. And I think it's so important that when we create these spaces, right? And we say we're here to support you and to help you, then whatever that ask is, right? Even if it doesn't really like make sense, or we were like, well, that's easier, that we show them that we see you. And it may be something beyond us. So then we help to bring the resources, but we're not dismissive. We're not
Absolutely.
dismissive, you know.
No, absolutely.
I tell you, there's nothing worse than going into a group of women for empowerment to just share back and forth and to walk out of that group and just feel like deflated, dejected, or just drained, right? So I'm gonna say it again, deflated, dejected, or just drained.
Yes.
If it's empowering, then you should walk out with some power, right? You should walk out charged, like, whoa, that was great. And it doesn't even necessarily mean that you got anything personally, but you got to witness someone else's dreams being shared, or someone else being lifted up, or lifting, helping lift someone else up. And that's the thing. If you're winning, I'm winning. Because if we're
Yes.
building together, then when you win, I win.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And I've really learned, and I continue to learn every day because I can never learn enough,
Hmm.
that judgment plays such a huge part in authenticity, in
Hmm.
showing up at women empowering events, and whether or not it is empowering. Like you said, if you feel one moment of judgment from anybody, there comes a deflated. There
Hmm.
comes the dejected and rejected. It takes one person. And,
Hmm.
I find it really interesting. So, the women that have been coming to my group, I always say, hey, if you're interested, a friend or a colleague that would be interested in talking about these wonderful things we talk about, invite them.
Hmm.
Nobody invites anybody. And that's a clue, right? That
Right.
means something. That means they're not reaching that level of depth and that level of true support in
Right.
their circles. It doesn't mean that their friends aren't good friends, but
Right.
there's a difference, and I speak about this. There's a difference between truth and support.
Right.
People will say, I don't need a life coach. My friends and family are there for me anytime I need, right? They
Hmm.
show up for me.
Right.
But they don't, all they do is let them know, I support you.
Right.
That's different than truly being of value and truly accepting somebody without any judgment. And
Hmm.
it's made me realize, really the people in my life that don't really, fit. And it's
Right.
hard, and it's
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah.
And it's part of why we end up feeling unfulfilled.
Hmm.
And it's nobody's fault. We just have to find our people.
We have to
We
find our
have to
people.
show up in the right places to
Hmm.
find our people.
Absolutely. And I it go back again to when you surrender to the point where you just attract. So you allow. And you have to do that really from a soul and heart level, because some people that you like looking and you're like, now how in the world? Either you're looking up or down in your mind of judgment. And we talked about that. It's like, even if you say, oh, no judgment, I'm not judging. We are always judging something. That is just something that you deal with in life. And if you say, oh, I don't judge anything. I never judge. I don't judge. Then, yeah, I mean, maybe you have a different definition of the word judge. So I'll just leave it there because it's just a part of human nature. And I think the thing about judging is when you call yourself on it, when you get to a point where you can just call yourself on it. And like you said, looking in that mirror and say, hey, we're going to do that different because we're a little judgy there. Christine turned out to be a phenomenal person. And, we were just sitting up there judging her because of that red sweater with the gray jacket she had on. And, thinking like, oh, she thinks she's all of that. And it was none of that. It was none of that. She was truly and authentically open to serve and just build with you. So, and you get to that point, but you do have to have that conversation and say, okay, we got to get a little better. Don't act like it wasn't there. Address it and move on. Don't beat yourself up for it, but do acknowledge it and release it, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And to do that, to be able to look in the mirror and say, you're judging right now. Why are you judging? What within me is making me judge? What am I insecure about? What am I so fearful of? Why am I being threatened? Because that is always, always where that judgment comes from. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It
Mhm,
really, really doesn't. And to have that power to
mhm,
say, stop in your tracks. Why are you judging what's happening right now? Trace
mhm,
it, trace it, trace it to where that feeling came from. Oh my gosh.
mhm,
Okay. And it takes a lot of hard work to get there, but
mhm.
it changes your life
Yeah,
100% for the better.
I agree. I totally agree. And to add to that, I've also seen that when we see things in others that disturbs our peace or makes us uncomfortable, it's a reflection of unresolved issues within ourselves. So again, as you said, it's not about the other person, it's about our feelings with
Yes,
our self that we need to deal with.
absolutely.
Yeah, so I just have a couple of more things I want to discuss with you. Like one is, what is one of the greatest moments that you can share with us, like in your business? That walk that you just talked about, that was pretty cool, taking that walk with the women and, sitting. But what is a moment of like transformation? What is a moment that you've had in these last 5 years where you said, heck yeah, I'm doing it. Yeah, yeah, it's confirmed. Yeah.
I mean, there's been a few. I mean, first, I really I think it's appropriate to speak to how powerful the transformation was that I went through because I would never be where I am if I did not go through that transformation. I would have doubted myself. I wouldn't have had the courage, any of those things. So, that in itself, which continues to live in my life every day,
Mm-hmm.
is by far the biggest celebration that I had and continue to have.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that's been through a transformation will say the same thing. So, first of all, I made my life better. And how can that be anywhere not celebratory, right? I mean, it's
Right.
positively amazing. But I, so I post regularly on
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Yes.
And I'm really into kind of like themed things, right? So not just where I post every day. I want there to be a purpose to my purpose and to my
Yeah,
post.
I like that.
So Monday, I feature a communication myth buster where I talk about assumptions about how we communicate or how we connect. And I now have a new video series calling it Raw Morning Thoughts, where I just, give a 1 minute to 2 minute video spiel of something that makes you question yourself, where you are in your life. Is that where you want to be there? And offer some tips on perhaps how to make some changes. And
Mm-hmm.
then on Fridays, I post Fur Baby Fridays.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
And I I mean, people now tell me their favorite day of the work week is Friday because they can't wait for Fur Baby Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And a woman wrote me, this was about 2 months ago, and she sent me a private message. She had responded to one of the Fur Baby Fridays a couple weeks prior. And she sent me a message to tell me how special Fur Baby Fridays is to her, that she had posted about her dog a couple of weeks ago, and that ended up being the last day they had with their dog.
Mm.
And that thanks to Fur Baby Fridays, it gives her comfort now to see all these other fur babies and to share in the love for animals that she has, and that
Mm.
she was so grateful to me. And you know what? That was indirect impact, right? That was
Yeah,
not one-on-one coaching. That was
right,
not me inviting her to a women empowering women meetup. That was
right.
indirect. And that meant the world to me. And I said, you know what? I can sign off. Essentially, it's like I could sign off for the day because I did what I feel I'm meant to do. And
Yes,
that's to make an impact. And so that is huge.
yes.
Really. And some people may say, well, that's minimal. You didn't really do anything. And those are the judges. So it
Right,
doesn't matter to me what they think. It doesn't. And that's why I believe, because
right.
where there is a zero reaction on a post that is very emotional, there are probably 5 women out there who were saying, I feel that way too. That
Yeah,
happened to me too. And they're not reacting because they don't want to be associated with it because they're ashamed. They're fearful.
that's right.
They don't want their name on it. So
Right.
I don't post, I don't do what I do for me. And I don't
Right.
do it for the people that comment or react. I do it for the people who aren't yet ready to be in a
Nice.
position, but know that
Nice.
they're not alone. That it's it, like as long as one person can see, read, and hear that they're not alone,
Wow.
I can
That
just
was
crawl in the
powerful.
coffin.
That was powerful. And I strongly encourage you to write that down because I feel like that just came through. I strongly encourage you to write down what you just said. You said, I don't do it for myself. You said, I don't do it for the people that comment or, even do a little emoji or whatever. I do it for the people that are not yet ready to come out. So they're on the other side of the transformation. And I do it to let them know that they are not alone. That's powerful. That's empowerment right
Yeah.
there.
I
That
mean,
right.
I'm like a little bit getting a little choked up on, inside because there's
Whew,
nothing worse than feeling alone. There really is nothing worse than that. So yeah, that's my
wow.
mission, Diane.
Wow, that is when I tell you, oof, yeah, that goosebumped me. And so as I was listening, a couple of things came to mind. One, I did an interview on yesterday, and the young man that I interviewed with, he's in Poland, right? But he's from Ukraine. And so we were just talking about this whole concept of networking. So he says, I don't particularly like networking, the word. And I was like, "Really?" I'm listening because I want to hear what he's saying. And he says, I like friend working. Bam. That was an aha moment for me. I'm telling you, it impacted me so strongly that I went on my website last night because I have this page. And so I call the page networking, right? Because it's just like showing off of, I changed the name. I changed the name to the page to spotlighting because it's not necessarily friend working, it's spotlighting. You highlight, you spotlight. I changed the name. So I'm saying that's impactful. When
Yeah.
someone can say or do something and it just gives you an aha, like where you just feel it in your bones. Because whoever thought, right, that networking, like, it's just like another way of looking at that. He broke it down just by saying it. It's like a less personal way, whereas friend working, like we're building relationships. And you and I had that conversation, is why I'm bringing it up, because we were just talking about how we wanted to get to know one another, person to person, human to human, not like coach to author, coach to podcast. And I think that's why the vibe was just so high and connective, because we weren't trying to sell each other on anything. We were just trying to have a conversation, woman to woman. And in that conversation, the vibes, the authentic, the true vibes come out, right? And after that conversation just left me so lifted, right? I was so inspired and excited, right? Went for another walk on the beach, but it's just I say, yeah, we'll build. Like I know it's like we'll build, and I don't have to figure out what we'll build and how we'll build. I just know we'll build. I just know that things will fall in alignment, right? Where it's like, let's go. Let's do it together. So like listening to you and remembering about fur babies, I will be interviewing someone tomorrow who has this amazing doggy project that she's doing. And she's over in Spain. And so she's looking for dog lovers to meet up with, to have on her show, because she's doing like this whole dog show and everything. So I'm sure that I'll be connecting the two of you, because you just have that passion for the fur babies, right? And so
Absolutely.
I just think that, yeah, I'm like, oh, wow, that's great. And that's the key. That's empowerment right there. That's what we do. That's an example in real life, in real time, right? To speak to you and say, oh, you and her would make a great connection. So then it takes your whole vibe, your energy, what you are doing, and it takes it into another country. So it takes you over to Spain, right? So yesterday I was told that I'm a digital nomad. I love it. I labels. I'm like, get out of here. It's like, no, that's and there's some labels. I'm like, yeah, I'm all about it. I'm like, yes, all of that. So, and it's free to make that connection. It's free. It didn't cost me anything, maybe 5 minutes to shoot the email and put together. And who's to say what could come from that?
Yes.
What empowering women do. We just do. We don't think about it. We just be about it. We just
Yes.
be about our message. We live
Yes.
our message, right?
Absolutely. It's like I talk a lot when I meet new people, and I think I said this to you, let's build a bridge
Yeah.
and let's do this, let's do this. And a connection who is now a friend, we were just having this really great Zoom call one day. And I said, we should have a LinkedIn live show. And she said, oh, really? What we talk about? And I said, well, you can bring, your professional expertise and conversation, right? It's not just about work. It's about providing a community and learning an open environment for other people to build bridges. And she said, sounds great. And I said, well, let's meet again in about a week or two. So we met again. And I said, you know what? I don't want this to be a one and done thing. I think we have a lot to talk about. I think that we're not afraid to push boundaries. I think we're not afraid to create that conversation that people really want to have. And she said, okay. She said, well, how many do you want to do? I said, well, let's just do as many as we want. We'll do it every other week. And then she said, well, what should we call it? I said, I don't know. Let me think about it. And it took me 1 minute, 1 minute. And I said, I know the name of it. And she said, well, what? I said, we're going to call it We Built a Bridge.
Wow.
And do it in hopes of almost like what you said. So then people could come on and they can meet other people that they can build bridges with, or they can build a block, or they can build a community, and just create that space. And I'm so excited. First of all, I think she's phenomenal. And I want to lift her up as high as possible, which was really my original idea to do it. I'm like, we need to get your name out there more. I mean, she's got a decent amount of followers. Like, I mean, she's got great reaction and engagement.
Shout her out. What's her
But
name?
I'm like, I need to shine a flashlight, spotlight, like whatever it takes. I need to shine the moon on you. And now look what it's turned into. So, believe,
I want you to
show up.
before you go there. Shout her out. What's her name?
Yes. Oh, Colleen Seringer.
Colleen Seringer, ladies and gentlemen. We're building
Yes.
bridges. I'm going to find Colleen after this. And yeah, right on. Right on.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm all about that. I mean, doing positive and good things. I'm like, shout them out, say their name,
Yes.
because
Say their
that's
name.
how we bring them into the space. Because we don't know who's listening and where they're listening. This podcast goes a lot of places, right?
Yeah, that's
Around the
right.
world. So we want to say their name, because as we say their name, guess what? Somebody's saying our name as well. And we're
That's
not
right.
saying it for them to say it, but that's what's happening. They're
Yep.
saying our names in these
That's
spaces,
right.
right? Now, I apologize for stopping the flow of the one, two, three. So, where you going?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I don't know. You know, I get all caught up and passionate about what I'm talking about, but
Right, right.
I I don't even know
Well, guess what? We'll just get
what.
back to it. If it's meant to come out, it'll come out as we're doing our turn. And so we always want to know how our listeners can support your journey, your business, what you are doing. And I will say this, we have the most fantastic listeners on the planet, and they do reach out, to our guests. And I know this because I get the feedback, right? And it just takes just one to just change your whole trajectory. All it takes is one encounter. I believe that with all of my heart. And I'm expecting my encounter, and I am expecting to make that encounter for somebody else, because it's not just about you. Once you get, you give. So
Yes.
I'm just, yeah, I'm all about it. So how can our listeners support you and reach out?
It's so wonderful of you to ask. And I do believe in that we give because we want to give. We don't give because we want in return. But when we give, when we want to give, things happen in return. And that's just the goodness of life, right? I mean, zero expectations and bright things come our way. So, really, for me, I think that what's so important and that I'd love more women to do is okay, well, maybe Christine isn't the right life coach for me, right? Like I'm looking for a career coach. I'm not looking for a purpose and transformation coach, which is what I specialize in. But you know what? I have a coworker and she seems a little lost. Christine maybe isn't right for me. I'm going to pass her information to my coworker. And I'm going to, Christine just released a free workshop that can be viewed anytime anybody wants. All they need is the link, right? It's super simple. Watch it in the privacy of the corner of your room if you want to. And recommend that to a friend, a family member,
Mhm.
somebody who could benefit from it because it's not always about us, right? I mean,
Right.
sometimes it is. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, like I really identify with Christine. I want to feel as amazing as she does. I want to talk to her. And so, bam, it's like that connection is made. But we tend to stop short sometimes of that and not share
Yeah.
how the power of one can benefit the sorrow of another, right?
Yes.
And that to me, I think speaks louder and speaks of more impact than
Yes.
if just somebody said, well, I heard you on this podcast and I want to work with you. I mean, of course, I warmly welcome, first of all, connections, new friends, like let's grow this community. But to be referred by somebody perhaps it hasn't even worked with me,
Mm-hmm.
my mind is blown, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just gonna, cry the rest of the day in true happiness and gratefulness. So that's what that's what I think is really important for me.
Awesome. So how do they reach you?
Well, LinkedIn, I am on LinkedIn probably more than my watch wants me to be. Notice I did not say should because don't should on yourself, right?
I like that. I like that. Good, 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 good.
But yes, LinkedIn, I'm really easy to find. Christine Passo on LinkedIn. I also have my own website,
Yes.
christinepasso.com. Everything about me is on the website, and I can also be reached via email, and the address is connect@christinepasso.com.
Awesome. So let me ask you this. Everything you just said, the LinkedIn, the email, it's all connected to your website, right?
Yes.
So what we're going to do is we're going to give that website, and just as a gentle hug for you moving forward when asked how to connect with you, because you have your own website, always direct to your website, because that brings traffic to your website. So not only will they go to the LinkedIn, but they'll be like, oh, here's this video. Oh, so bring it always through the site, because then oh, this is a great site. And then they take and they send your site on, and let that site go on, because trust me, LinkedIn has their metrics. Okay.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Send them right there to that, to that website. It has been such a joy having this conversation with you. I knew that it would be enriching, and it has been so enriching. And I I thank you. So before we sign off, is there any message of inspiration, or just anything that you want to say to someone that is at that crossroad to launch? Is there any inspiration you like to give?
Oh gosh, and I've said this before, and that's don't believe the hype, right? Don't believe the hype that everybody's supposed to be living married, and you live in a 4-bedroom house and you have 2 kids and an animal and you've got the fence, and people feel that they have to live up to this expectation, and when they don't, we're disappointed, we're upset, we're miserable, we feel like we don't measure. And don't believe the hype, believe in what you believe in. And if where you are in your life and the people that you're surrounding you with, or the job that you're working, if something feels off kilter, listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. Don't ask your friend if they feel off kilter too. They're different. They're different. Believe in yourself. And if you want to understand at all how you can improve in coaching, just to answer the questions for yourself, not even to sign up, just take a look at the workshop, listen to it, answer those questions for yourself. It's all about you. The workshop is all about you and education. So don't believe the hype. Listen to your gut. That is my biggest message. And then another message is I am sending you the biggest virtual hug that is humanly possible, technologically possible to send through video. Thank you so much for inviting me on Love Drops podcast. It has been such a thrill, such a delight, and it gave us more time to talk. So, wow,
Yeah.
I'm the lucky one.
I'm the lucky one. We're the lucky ones.
Yes.
And how it feels when empowered women come together. This is what we do. We win together and we build bridges. And so thank you for saying yes. Thank you, listeners, for staying with us. And we'll see you on the next episode. And until that time, one love.
Never a second will I waste, never an opportunity to taste the sweetness of this life.
Thank you for tuning in to the Love Drops podcast. Be sure to follow this podcast and share the love with everyone you know. Until next time, this is Charles and Diane signing off. One love.
Love it conquers all, whether big or small. Love never fails. Oh, love it conquers all. Love never